What's going on to all my Marvel MCU fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, review of the latest episode of Disney Plus What If, and today we are talking about a pretty dark and awesome episode. Episode 3 was titled What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes, and we got some stuff to break down here in the spoiler review, but before we break it all down, do me a favor and check me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, that way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler discussion of episode 3 of What If, well, make sure to like and share the video. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in the comment section, let's talk rankings. Out of the 3 episodes so far, what has been your favorite? And let's talk about all the stuff that we got in this 3rd episode. What was your favorite kill? What did you think of the twists, the turns? Let's have a discussion about it in the comments below. So just a quick little reminder, if you all do not know, but every single Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central Time, myself, Amanda, and Chris, we go live to talk a little bit more in depth about the latest episode of What If, but we also talk about the latest Marvel news. And boy, this last week we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got the Eternals trailer that we're going to break down. We have the Shang-Chi, which the embargo lifted, and we're going to be talking about it non-spoilers, of course. And then of course, we're talking Spider-Man No Way Home and so much more. And we'll be having my man coming to pay another visit to the channel as a special guest, and that is Michael from Black Gay Comic Geek. So tonight, 6 p.m. Central Time, see you all there. So let's get into the recap here, and just, this might be my favorite episode. I am someone that always says that, you know, Disney, sometimes they're a little bit restrained. They sometimes don't go dark enough, and to be fair, they don't go as dark as they could, but this is an example when Disney wants to, they can get dark, ladies and gentlemen, especially in an animated series, to kill off the Avengers, and not to just show them killed off screen, but seeing Tony get poisoned, seeing the Hulk, explode, seeing Thor get shot by an arrow, seeing Nat getting killed, in the manner that she did. This was a pretty dark episode, and it was right up my alley. But let's get into the recap as we open up with Monday, and I'm not gonna lie, we pay a visit to 2 of my least Marvel films, one being Iron Man 2. As one thing I will say, I love how these 3 episodes so far has been able to recreate some of the best moments in the MCU and literally go shot by shot. Even though I'm not a fan of Iron Man 2, but literally that moment where we see Fury and Nat visiting Tony at the donut shop was literally a shot for shot, which was just so cool how they're able to recreate that. But in this world, we know that Nat shoots Tony to help him out with his, his issues with all the stuff that's in his blood system, but instead of healing him, it actually kills him, which I'm like, oh. And then they show you, again, seeing that moment of Tony hitting the floor dying, I'm like, oh, okay, this is shocking the system. Seeing, one of the lead Avengers in Tony Stark and Iron Man die in that matter is pretty crazy to see, which brings us to cut into the next scene, which is cut to Tuesday, and we obviously go back to Thor. Isn't my least favorite, but it's kind of like in the middle of the pack as far as MCU films go. But neither here nor there. We cut to Coulson obviously calling Fury about Thor's hammer landing on Earth. But Fury has his hands tied right now because one of his best assassins and S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in Natasha Romanoff is being taken into custody by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. As we see, obviously, Pierce is like, this is an old Russian assassin. She's probably taking off the Avengers, and they bringing her in to question. But my main man, Nick Fury, always has faith in that as he gives her the vow to look and to investigate who killed Tony Stark, which brings us to one of the coolest moments of the episode. This is why I love Natasha Romanoff. I know it sucks right now that actress, the real life actress, Scarlett Johansson, is going through all this crazy stuff with Disney, but Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, is such a cool character. As we see, she's in the back of the truck, and she just, I love the little banter and just seeing her taking out the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent so easily. That was one of my favorite scenes in this episode. But cut to, meanwhile, we see Fury at the site of where Thor's hammer is, again tying back to like a shot by shot to what happened in Thor 1. And I love the comedic beats as Coulson's describing Thor being so handsome and his pretty hair. All the comedy beats in this episode was pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. But just as we see with Nat and her being responsible for the death of Tony Stark, well, going back to my man Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, holding an arrow to Thor as he's taking out these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. But in this scenario, he actually shoots Thor. Well, we think he shoots Thor, and he's questioning himself like, I never miss, I never have a misfire. And correct me if I'm wrong, I was kind of questioning Thor being killed by a mere, an arrow to the chest or to the head. I don't know how he died in regards to where the arrow landed, but I'm like, I remember in Thor 1, obviously Odin took away his ability to summon his hammer and took away his, his abilities to be the Thor that we know. But does that take away him being a god and like an arrow would kill Thor? I don't know. I might be wrong again. He might have stripped him away from all of his powers. I really haven't revisited that film in a while. But let me know, did you question Thor being killed by an arrow? I don't know. Let's talk about it in the comments. But nonetheless, we see Clint at this point is being held and being questioned by Fury and about to come in and see, why did you do what you did? But unfortunately, Clint is dead and we don't know what happened to him. So again, we're picking off these Avengers one by one. I'm like, oh, this is a nice little murder mystery going on here. But and by the way, at this point, I'm thinking like, who could be responsible for the death of these Avengers? And I'm just thinking, who is it? And we'll get to that here in a little bit. But cut to Wednesday as we see Nat paying a visit, which actually really enjoyed this kind of connective tissue because let's think about these characters. Natasha Romanoff and Betty Ross. Who do they have in common? Well, they both were in a romance with Bruce Banner, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But we see that Nat is questioning her because she's, number one, she's able to avoid S.H.I.E.L.D., but also she kind of specializes in this field. But we go to Fury informing Nat that, the situation at hand, that there's a connection between, obviously, Clint. And number one, she found out that Clint died, and obviously we know that they have a connection. So that was kind of emotional there, and seeing her reaction there. Again, Nat's so, stoic and just about the business, but when she heard that Clint died, you can see that emotion there, which I love. But we see Nat is given the information, and Fury says we got to find Bruce, and she's like, well, I think I actually killed two birds with one stone. I found Bruce, which he's in the cabinet. And again, him opening the door, and I love that again they kind of recast. Obviously, we know that Bruce Banner is played by Mark Ruffalo in the MCU, but obviously before that it was Edward Norton. So we see Bruce Banner in the Hulk film, and he's in the in the closet, and obviously he's opening the door up to his current love interest, and we know his future love interest in the MCU. So I kind of love that connection there, how they tie the pieces to the puzzle. But cut to Loki making his way to Earth, and he has an army with him, and he's ready to avenge the death of his brother. Loki coming to Earth to avenge his brother, versus obviously in the Avengers, or obviously in Thor 1, he wanted to take over Earth, which we'll talk about Loki and his burden and his destiny being fulfilled towards the end of this episode. But back to Nat and Bruce as we replay the events in the Incredible Hulk. They're in that tunnel. We see General Ross makes his way there, and someone shoots him, and we get another kind of, and I love this moment that they tie all of the MCU stuff in. We have that conversation between Nat and Bruce. He says, I got you, Bruce. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. And he warns her like he did in the Avengers, and we see that he obviously hulks out, which was such a cool moment. But speaking of a cool moment and a pretty dark moment, Hulk is indestructible. He can't be killed, but unless you have the right person do the job, and we'll talk about that person a little bit. But we see that he is expanding, and he ultimately explodes, and I was like, this is crazy. That was probably my favorite death. I'm not gonna lie, I think that was my favorite death of the episode, is seeing the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, get exploded was pretty insane. But cut to Fury obviously dealing with Loki and making a deal with Loki to find the killer responsible for Thor's death. But meanwhile, we see Coulson and Nat, which another funny joke when he gives her the password, which obviously is connected to Captain America, and she's looking up the files, and obviously we see the different Avengers that are already Avengers. Nick Fury, I believe we saw Pierce, I believe we saw Hope, who we'll talk about in a second. But then obviously Nat, being the spy that she is, she knows that someone's in the room with her. She says, you're not going to be able to defeat me or S.H.I.E.L.D., but they take her out pretty easily. And it's like, who is this person? They're invisible. We can't see him. And immediately it kind of clicked with me. Oh, it's someone in the Ant-Man universe, which we'll get to that reveal here in a second. But Fury, according to, obviously he finds out, he gets a message from Nat who says it's all about Hope. He kind of puts the pieces to the puzzle together. He goes into his glove department, and we see that Captain America, or to say Captain Marvel pager, which we'll talk about her here at the end of this review. But in the meantime, he's coming up with a plan. He makes his way to the Destroyer, and he's going to talk to Loki, the god of mischief, which brings us to Thursday, which we see Fury paying a visit to Hope Van Dyke's grave, which lo and behold, the killer himself makes his way into the frame, which is Hank Pym, who's actually not wearing his Ant-Man suit, but his Yellow Jacket suit, which I believe ties into the comics whenever he has like the Yellow Jacket particle or the suit on and kind of messes with his head. And we kind of see that. We saw saw that obviously in the first Ant-Man, but we see what happens with Aaron Cross' character. But we see the conversation at hand. We learn that, you know, he's avenging his daughter, who he feels like her death, because we know Hope dies in the story, her death is responsible because of Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. and being an agent, and he kind of manipulated her to be an Avenger of sorts. So that's like his story, which I'm not going to lie, it makes sense because we obviously know Hank has obviously a vendetta with S.H.I.E.L.D., even from the Ant-Man films and all that stuff. But I wish it would have been more interesting to me if it would have been actually Janet Van Dyke. I would have liked to have seen that and maybe the role reversal in that sense. But nonetheless, we see Fury versus Hank Pym, and Fury's looking pretty spry as Hank brings out, but it's not Nick Fury. It is the God of Mischief, Loki himself, as they ultimately do take down Hank Pym, and which was a pretty cool reveal. But nonetheless, we cut to Friday as Loki wants to stay on Earth for a while and rule Earth as he is destined to be, fulfill his destiny. As we know, Loki doesn't want freedom on Earth and wants to rule Earth, which brings us to Fury waking up the Captain America. He's going to Captain America to defrost Captain America, but at the same time, he already made a call to another captain, and it is Captain Marvel, as she's ready to go to war and go to fight to defend Earth against Loki, who is the leader of the Earth. So what a cool episode to me. Again, this murder mystery, seeing some of my least favorite movies in the MCU, kind of have revisit those films, but obviously have a twist on it. Again, my favorite kill, seeing the Hulk get exploded, which goes to show you, in the world of the MCU and in Marvel Comics, Ant-Man, if Ant-Man wanted to, whether it be Hank Pym, you know, obviously, you know, what we have with Scott or Janet, if they wanted to, they could be very indestructible. They can take out the Avengers pretty easily. And again, this goes to the whole Thanos, Ant-Man holding to Thanos' butt and just expanding and exploding him. Listen, don't underestimate Ant-Man, and we'll see what we get with Quantumanium in a couple years. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed this episode. The murder mystery, the thrills. This episode, to me, out of 3, I think had the most like return of the voice actors: Nick Fury, Jeremy Renner, or Nick Fury, Samuel Jackson, Jeremy Renner. I believe Jamie Alexander came back as Sif. Obviously, Loki, Tom Hiddleston was there. Coulson's the actor came back to voice him, and I think obviously Bruce Banner. I don't know who voiced. I don't believe it was the actress that voiced, Betty Ross, and I don't believe General Ross was the same character. But nonetheless, we had a lot of the same actors come back in this episode, which is fantastic. But they're building this world, man. This world so far, there's no main Avengers so far in this particular story. We have Captain America, Captain Marvel, and obviously Nick Fury. So this would be interesting to see who assembles, what team this looks like. I think we're going to revisit this story. So far, each episode is left on a cliffhanger. So we have T'Challa, Star-Lord. Obviously in the Ravagers, we have Peggy Carter, and now we have this world. So I'm excited to see when these worlds come together and clash, and who is the ultimate villain that they're going to have to go against. So really enjoyed this episode, but I want to know what you all thought of the episode, your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the twist, your thoughts on the cameos, and everything in between. And again, just a reminder, join us tonight, 6 p.m. Central Time, myself, Michael, Amanda, and Chris. We're talking more about this episode. We're talking Shang-Chi, we're talking Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, and so much more. So I hope you all can tune in. Thank you all for watching this review. If you stuck around to this point of the video, thank you so much. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any more other content. Also, non-MCU related, but I do have my early review for Candyman, so check that out. Again, thank you for watching this review. See you all tonight. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.